Kathy Hagan, business consultant with the Florida Small Business Development Center Network. Access to capital is one of the most challenging issues that it faces someone who is starting a business or growing a business. And sometimes it's just wondering, where is that money? So we're going to talk a little bit about the sources of financing for small businesses. So this is just a brief list of some sources of financing for your small business. So let's talk about each one of these in a little bit of depth. And everybody's familiar with debt. You know, we probably have a little bit of that personally. It's an amount of money that you borrow and you pay back over a period of time. And primary thing about debt financing, it is an obligation to repay. You know, so again, that term loan, that line of credit, when you're borrowing money, you have an obligation to repay that money. There's an interest rate attached, sometimes fixed. So over the course of the life of the loan, it's fixed. But more often times, it's going to be a variable rate based on whatever the market requirements are. It's going to allow the business to maintain complete ownership. I'm not bringing in another owner, so that business owner, maintains control, owns the entire business, which is an advantage. You've got to demonstrate when I'm borrowing money, my capacity to repay. Bank just wants to be repaid, so that business plan, financial proposal that you're presenting is going to show that you have the ability to repay that loan. Debt financing most often requires that you have some type of collateral to secure the loan. Most often it's going to require that you provide a personal guarantee. So if something happens within the business and the business cannot generate the cash to repay, then you as the borrower are personally guaranteeing that you'll repay the loan. And the Small Business Administration has loan programs to encourage banks to make loans that are a little bit riskier perhaps than they're wanting to take on within their portfolio. So SBA Guarantee provides the bank with some comfort that if for some reason borrower defaults, cannot repay the loan, then the bank is only on the hook for a small percentage of that loan. So SBA takes on the responsibility to collect at that point. So again, it makes it a little more palatable for a lender to look at deals for startup businesses, riskier businesses. So that's debt financing, just one source of financing for your business. Now we'll look at equity financing. And equity is ownership. It's not money that's going to be repaid over time. It's money invested from your pocket, the business owner's pocket, or perhaps you bring in some investment dollars from someone else. Equity is not money that's going to be repaid, but there's some return on investment that you're providing for your investors. And you're not making any promises. Investors are taking on a risk. So there's no guarantee that they're going to get their money back. But those investors are going to evaluate the risk before they give you their money. And they're going to look at your business plan and hopefully have some confidence that they can get their money out. The most common source of equity financing for small businesses, to be honest, is the family and friends network. Those people that know you, love you, trust you perhaps, that are willing to take a risk and invest within your business. Or perhaps you have some connections that you've made within the industry who believe in the concept, believe in the business model. They may also be a source of equity financing. One source of financing that small business owners often look to are grants. And not really a source of financing for for-profit businesses. I might define grants as free money. There's someone there that wants to give you their money in order for you to go and make money for yourself. And not really a logical argument. Most grant programs are designed for not-for-profits. There's some, specific deliverable that you as a nonprofit help this foundation or government agency achieve. And typically not for starting businesses. So I would encourage you to take that off the table as a source of financing. If They're few and far between. If you happen to find one, that's great, but I wouldn't hang your hat on it. One of the most innovative and latest sources of financing out there these days is crowdfunding. And crowdfunding is collecting money in small amounts from a lot of people. And it's really based on a community. There is a community that believes in your concept, believes in you, and they want to help you achieve it. And I think it's important to know that in order to be successful in crowdfunding, that you already have a crowd. There's already somebody that follows you that wants to be a part of your success. And that crowdfunding dollars can come in a couple of different ways. One, they could be donations. People they love your concept. They make a donation, $5, $25, $100, whatever it might be. They get some token recognition or prize or gift, if you will, to make a donation towards your crowdfunding effort. And then there's also investment-based crowdfunding, where those individuals making small amounts of investment actually take ownership. There's some piece of the pie that they're getting for that investment. There are other sources of financing you could pursue to finance the startup or growth of your business. One of the common ones is credit cards. Personal credit cards are often used to start businesses or to fund working capital, used as a line of credit sometimes for businesses. And I think that's a fine tool as long as you have the mindset to pay it back. Because if you use, for instance, a credit card to buy a computer that might cost you $5,000 for your home-based business, I think you could reasonably determine that you can generate money to pay it back. But credit cards aren't really good sources of financing for larger purchases or to fund the monthly operating of your business, because you really could find yourself in a lot of trouble at the end of that time period when you can't repay that credit card, and then the interest rates go sky high and you do a lot of damage to your personal credit. So I use that source of financing cautiously. Okay. Home equity lines of credit are another common place where people turn oftentimes to start businesses. If you have equity in a home, you can borrow against that. There's no requirement for a business plan, although I would still encourage it just for your personal sanity, if you will. And interest rates could potentially be lower depending on the amount of equity that you have in your home. So that is a source of financing. It's not one that I would suggest you pursue lightly, because in all likelihood that's your most valuable asset that you have. And so you need to be confident that the risk within your venture doesn't eat away at the equity that you have in your home. Once you're in business, there are some sources of financing as you operate. So, for instance, if I sell on terms, if I provide my customers terms of 60 days, 90 days, or longer to pay, then I can actually sell those receivables to a finance company. So they will give me a lump sum. They will also charge me a hefty percentage of that lump sum. So if my collections is $1,000, they may give me $800, and they keep the remainder as their fee. So it can become a very expensive source of financing and really should only be used in the short term. Suppliers can also be a source of financing simply by providing me terms. So those accounts payable, if I have a vendor who will let me pay in 90 days, then they're essentially providing me financing for 90 days. Customers can also be a source of financing, and they can do that simply by providing me a deposit for whatever they're purchasing. So I have use of their money, right away, and deliver, in the future what they're purchasing. Finally, one of the most important sources of financing is the family and friends network, or you might add family, friends, and fools to that. Again, people that are willing to take a risk. And this could be in the form of equity or debt. You could have somebody loan you money, an individual that knows you. You set up a promissory note and you pay them back over time. Or they could be a source of equity financing, where they actually own a piece of your business and get some return on that investment, or get their money back at some period of time in the future. So these are just some sources that you can pursue for financing your business. I think it's important that before you approach any of these avenues, you are prepared. Being prepared with a plan, understanding what the questions are that a banker or an investor or members of your family and friends network might ask you to say, how are you going to make money and how are you going to pay me back? I really want to be able to understand that when I'm considering whether I want to finance the success of your business. And I need to see confidence that you know how to be a success with whatever it is that you're planning to do.